Good evening. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. I'd like to call this meeting of the Auburn City Council to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Here.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Here.
Councilor Cuddy.
Here.
Councilor Clarko.
Here.
Mayor Genatino.
Here, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer or reflection. Thank you. Please be seated. Public announcements.
Thanks, Mayor. We do have just a couple of announcements tonight. The first is just want to remind everybody that our annual Memorial Day Parade starts on Monday, May 25th at 11 a.m. The parade orders have just been posted to the city's website later this afternoon. The parade lineup begins at 10:30 a.m. on East Genesee Street, east of Fulton Street. The parade will move out promptly at 11 a.m., traveling westward and concluding at Veterans Memorial Park, 172 Genesee Street. Following the parade at approximately 11:45 a.m. or once the parade is over, there will be a Memorial Day ceremony at Veterans Memorial Park at 172 Genesee Street. After the Memorial Day parade and ceremony, there is a food truck event and duck derby organized by the Auburn Downtown Bid and the Central New York Tomato Fest, and that's at Market Street Park. Also wanted to remind everybody that next week at City Council, we will be having a couple of public hearings. Notice is hereby given. The Auburn City Council has called a public hearing to be held on Thursday, May 28, 2026, beginning at 5 p.m. regarding local law number 1 of 2026, authorizing a property tax in excess of the limit established in New York State General Municipal Law, Chapter 24, Article 2, Section 3C. Also next week, notice is hereby given that the Auburn City Council has called a public hearing to be held on Thursday, May 28, 2026 at the regular meeting of the City of Auburn City Council that begins at 5 p.m. for the purposes of collecting citizen input concerning the City of Auburn City Manager's proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 city budget. Both those public hearings are part of our regular meeting next week here at City Hall, 24 South Street. That's all I have there.
Very good. Thank you. Move on to the public to be heard.
At this point in time, we will open the public to be heard session of the council meeting. Residents are asked to state their name and address for the record. Please keep remarks to 3 minutes or less, and please observe commonly accepted rules of courtesy and decorum.
Is there anybody wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, sir.
I have a piece of paper I can hand out.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tim Smith from 13 Chestnut Street in Auburn. I only got 3 minutes, so
You have three,
I'm here
sir.
to discuss the tax, city tax process. And as I was going through the system, I realized that it's not fair and equitable. And property is assessed by square foot, length times width, livable space. Basements that are finished, some may be used, some might not. As I went through the whole thing, I came up with an idea that if you assess everybody's home and their basement, with the understanding that the city can come in and inspect your basement to determine that it's not a usable space, that will add a lot of income to the city based on my numbers on the system, depending on there's 100, 500, or 1,000, could be up to $1,236 added. So I think somebody needs to look at that process because people are paying extra money that don't have finished basements. Even some people that do, that are paying their taxes, they're paying more because people aren't being assessed properly. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you. Is anybody else? Ms. Waby?
Good evening. My name is Sue Waby. I live at 153 South Hoops Ave here in Auburn. I also own Regenerations, the store that's downtown at 101 Genesee Street. Prior to owning that, I had Finger Lakes Art Cooperative in the very same spot. So I've been downtown for 13 years. I know at least 4 of you have heard my spiel on parking before, and it just seems so counterproductive to me that when we're trying to encourage people to come downtown and spend money and let's revitalize downtown, the city seems to be doing a lot to sabotage that. In terms of the parking, right now it's $1 an hour. It's going to go to $2 an hour. I have people every day that come into my store, and what's going on with the parking? People who, they come to my store from out of town. Why are we backing in parking? So not only do people not like the back-in parking, now we're going to double their rate. So you want people to come downtown, spend money, of which the city will get 4% of whatever the sales are collected on sales tax, my business included, and now we're going to charge them a fee to come downtown. So as a result of the back-end parking, which whether or not we have any options there, we don't really know the answer to that, the additional parking fees, it's just counterproductive. We need to generate revenue from more businesses down there, from more sales tax being collected. We tried the 2-hour free parking because we had COVID money. Couldn't figure out how to monitor that because according to the police department, they can't chalk the tires because it's somebody's property, but yet they can lift up a windshield and put a ticket under there. Personally, I don't have parking at my store. I pay to park. So based on the rate and when you're supposed to pay to park, my personal parking is going to go from $1,500 a year to $3,000. Plus you're getting 4% of my $130,000 business. So tell me how this makes sense. We want to revitalize downtown, but we're discouraging people from coming downtown. There are other communities, Cortland, Canandaigua, that don't charge for street parking. They charge for municipal parking lots. They don't charge at all for street parking. So I'm not sure where we're going here with this. We hear the excuse that, well, people will park there all day long.
30 seconds.
Figure it out. People who work downtown, give them a sticker, let them park on the 4th floor of the parking garage. If they have a sticker and they're parked on Genesee Street, you know they're not supposed to be parked there if they haven't paid. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Waby. Mr. Rudolph?
James Udall, 106 Osborne Street. Recently, I located a copy of the county inspection report for the Casey Park swimming pool. Having looked it over, it's not a very bad report card. There appears to be a repair needed to the handrail on the shallow end and some undisclosed wear and tear to the concrete decking. The repairs seem simple, and I've already heard from several volunteers willing to take on the job. In any case, the county is not recommending closure of the pool, and they're not saying not to use it because of any health or safety concerns. So why did the Corporation Council at last week's meeting decide to throw himself on this political grenade? He basically took ownership of the matter by recommending closure of the pool due to liability concerns. However, his recommendation doesn't line up with the facts on the report. Perhaps he's just being a loyal soldier and trying to give cover to the city council, because they they're choosing to close the swimming pool. This is among other choices that the city makes. Keeping the pool closed is a choice. Asking slumlords masquerading as innkeepers assisting slumlords, masquerading as innkeepers by exempting them from paying motel occupancy tax for rooms that are rented by the county for emergency housing. That's a choice. That costs about maybe $200,000 a year. Allowing a single slumlord in town to accrue $170,000 in unpaid property taxes is a choice. Allowing $600,000 in parking tickets to go unpaid is a choice. Adding a city ambulance service, which has lost money every single year since its inception, to replace a private ambulance that was free remains a choice. Negotiating a contract with the fire department that prevents staff cuts during bad budget years, which handcuffs the city, that's a choice. Finally, backstopping unpaid county property taxes of about $400,000 this June is another choice. That's about 2 years' worth of the pool funding. Paying delinquent county property taxes year after year was a choice. There's still an outstanding FOIL request dated February 24th, received by the city clerk, asking just how much money the city has wasted over the years backstopping the county's unpaid property taxes. How much money is sitting
30
dead
seconds.
in dilapidated and abandoned properties that the city now owns. I guess that the city has over about $800,000 of money that it paid to the county, which now sits dead across maybe 200 foreclosed properties. Why can't we get an answer to the FOIL request? The information that might be revealed probably is worse than what I even think it is. How is it that a FOIL request
Time's
made
up, sir.
by other citizens
Your
was able to
3 minutes
leapfrog
is up,
mine?
sir. Thank you. Is anybody else with? Yes, Ms. Seneca?
Good afternoon, and thank you for letting me speak. My name is Alice Seneca, and I live at 20 Oak Street in Auburn, New York. And again, I'm addressing what was in the newspaper on the 19th, Casey Park pool closing. I felt pretty bad, as did a lot of other people, and we discussed it. But when I read the article, it didn't seem like it was unsolvable. Casey Park pool is to close this year, and then right underneath it said it's not due to the city's fiscal challenges. Our Auburn city manager, Jenny Hames, revealed at a recent, and I don't know what date, inspection by Cuyahoga County Health Department, they found a recommended fix to concrete surrounding the pool. And it was further reviewed by the city and determined it would be a liability until repairs are completed. Now, Casey Park Pool usually opens around the 4th of July, give or take a few days. If you based it on this newspaper article, that gives us 45 days, 45 working days. If it's 5-day work week, that's 9 weeks. We can get a lot of work done in that time. There's a lot of time involved in this, and I think there was time to address this earlier. The hockey thing has been approved for the winter. There will be basketball down there. There will be skateboarding down there, tennis, softball, the nature trails, and they should be. They're essential and they're fantastic. But this is really the only cool-off sport that we have to offer kids and everybody else during the summer. And it also said there was an intention to fix this in the fall. That's after the season's over. Auburn Corporation Counsel Nate Garland added that he advised against the pool being open. And Mayor Giannatino, I wanted to thank you personally because you asked about using federal community development block grants to repair the concrete because it's been used before at Casey Park. I don't know what happened with that, but thank you for trying. I do appreciate that. It was suggested by our city public works superintendent, I believe Mike Talbot, that this was one of the first things for proposed cuts. The pool closing, and it said it won't affect the other
30
Casey
seconds.
Park activities. Okay. Our Auburn City Councilor, Craig Diego, said he's engaged with the YMCA CEO, Scott Senserbo, about alternative possibilities for swimming. but that does represent a problem with accessibility, affordability. For many people, this is their summer vacation. They can't go to the Outer Banks, they can't go to Cape Cod, they can't go camping. I was one of those kids, you know, didn't have it.
Ma'am, your time's up, ma'am.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much for
thank
your
you.
time. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Yes, in the back?
Good evening, Walker Goodamout, 60 Mary Street. I want to thank the council for the presentation on the flock cameras last week. I appreciate you taking it seriously and giving us the time and asking some questions. I really appreciate that. I want to address a couple things that came up in the presentation last week. First of all, it was noted that the way the contract was procured was not illegal. If it was not illegal, I would argue that it was very, very improper. The fact that this system of these flock cameras affects every person who lives, works, or even passes through Auburn was not discussed or voted on by our elected representatives. That doesn't sit with me the right way. And I appreciate the councilors who expressed their concerns that this was not put in front of them as well. I hope this improperness can lead to either a pause or some kind of termination so it can go through the proper channels in future. Speaking of this, there was also some frustration expressed about how the criticism for flock only appeared recently, and I would say that's because a lot of us only learned about it recently. And in fact, a lot of folks on council have expressed how they didn't fully sort of understand what was going on until recently either, so I just wanted to point that out. As well with looking into the Citizen, I didn't see any articles specifically about flock until this year, although the grant was procured in 2023. I'm not trying to say anything nefarious was happening, I'm just saying that it wasn't really in the public eye, so a lot of us are just learning about it now and learning the ramifications of it now. The other thing I wanted to address with the flock cameras is that there was some talk of if we were to get rid of flock, bring in some kind of other contractor, and I think my colleagues and I have made clear our issues with the company of flock. I would also just like to emphasize that we also have a problem with the mass surveillance infrastructure of any of these cameras, and that if flock hopefully is disposed of, I hope that there can be some kind of local legislation put in place to define acceptable limits for AI-based policing technology and ALRPs. So I think some kind of legislation in the future would be very much appreciated for that. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. What's that? Do you have a question for clarification?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sorry. Yeah, I appreciate you coming every week, and obviously you guys speak on what you stand for, and I'm good with that. I'll just speak on one little issue that you did say. That the grant was not procured properly, illegally, if you want to call it, but the contract was legal. Obviously, there's we could go back and forth all day about whether it came in front, but I just want to clarify that the second part, and that's why I said it last week. You know what I mean? The problem I think I have with this, the whole thing is, and we're willing to work with you guys 100% because it was a flock thing up until a couple of days ago, but then I once again received an email last night. Now you're saying it's flock, Motorola, Axon, everything that we use. You guys have already got an answer, and I'm not speaking to you specifically. That's why I said last week, if you guys are just against the cameras, I'd prefer you just to come and say it. And it's nothing personal regardless. If that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But when you guys say that you're gonna help us get into a different system, and we have 2 other systems we use and other police agencies are using, but now the emails are coming through, well, this is no good, this is no good. I'm just wondering where we're going with this, you know what I mean? But I appreciate, you standing up for what you think is best for the community.
I would just say with that also, a lot of us are learning as we go. So I don't want to imply that we've been trying to do anything nefarious here. A lot of us are just learning about these technologies ourselves as well. And then I think that's what I was talking about with the local legislation as well. If we could get some kind of clarification on what would and wouldn't work, I think that would be very much appreciated. So if we do get another company, that we'd make sure that they don't do the same stuff as Flock is doing. And with regards to the illegality, I wasn't trying to push back on that. I was just trying to say that I think, as some of you have expressed as well, that it didn't go in front of you guys. The amount of money that was involved in this, the amount of community sort of involvement that's involved with this, that's a big concern of mine, that in future stuff like this should go in front of you. So thank you for your question, sir.
100%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question? Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to be heard? Yeah, Mr. Hurling?
My name is Dan Hurling. I live at 250 East Genesee Street. I appreciate everyone's time. I know that we're making some difficult decisions this year, and I just want to speak in behalf of, I believe, the importance of our parks and recreational opportunities for our youth, right? So specifically Casey Park. I'd love us to, see if we can come up with a plan to get Casey Park running this year. And if we can't, at least, some confidence that it is funded and that we will be able to work towards that. So appreciate all the difficult decisions everyone has to make. I just want to make sure they're well-rounded. And then just other slight note, I know there's been some talk around property tax and the importance of shopping local. To me, that's confusing a little bit sometimes, so I think maybe if we could just clarify in that language. I believe the city does a 2% preemptive tax. If that's accurate, I think shopping local would mean shop within the bounds of Auburn. If that's not accurate, then it could be Cuyahoga County, for example. And so where I'm going with that, if you say shop local, someone might not realize, hey, if I go to Lowe's, I'm not actually contributing back to the city, but if I go to Builder's Choice, which is always a fine choice, then I am contributing back to the city. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to be heard? Mr. Sensabaugh?
Thank you, Mayor. Scott Sensabaugh, 27 Williams Street. I'm the CEO of the Auburn YMCA, 6008 Eastlake Road. I want to begin by acknowledging the difficult budget decisions you're facing. I understand that every choice you make carries real consequences for the people in our community. In the interest of keeping the city and the city council and the YMCA aligned, I'd like to briefly address two areas of concern. First, regarding parking, the YMCA purchases 34 annual parking passes in the city garage and provides them at no cost to our staff, primarily the teachers in our early learning center. This week, we were informed that the cost per pass will increase from $178 to $360 annually. For 30 of those passes, this represents an unplanned $5,400 increase to our operating expenses. While we will do our best to manage this, it's important to put that number into perspective. For us, $5,400 represents 18 camp scholarships, 18 youth YMCA memberships, 50 Learn to Swim scholarships. These are not abstract numbers. They represent real children and families in our community. As a nonprofit that has consistently sought to partner with the city, this level of increase is difficult to understand and even harder to absorb. We recognize that costs are rising and that you have a budget to deliver, but we respectfully ask that you reconsider the scale of the increase for nonprofit organizations like ours. Second, on the issue of swimming access, despite the city's recent decision to keep the Casey Park pool closed this summer, the YMCA has actively worked to provide solutions to ensure that children in Auburn still have access to water. We proposed options that included reduced cost operations at Casey Park, as well as the use of the YMCA pool. In the case of utilizing our facility, we offered a model with no profit to the YMCA and no request for reimbursement of core operating costs, such as chlorine and electricity. Importantly, each of these proposals included a cost-neutral approach for the city, structured around a reasonable lease agreement for 22 parking spaces on the Court Street lot. I was informed this week that these options were not considered, which leaves our community without a viable public swimming solution this summer outside of Owasco Lake. I want to be clear. The YMCA remains ready and willing to partner with the city to find a solution. That's been our position over the past month, and it continues to be our position today. Ensuring that children in Auburn have access to safe, supervised swimming is something we should accomplish together. As we speak, our staff is working on solutions to provide that to our kids. Notwithstanding that, we stand ready to act immediately if an opportunity to collaborate presents itself. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Bush.
Dale Bush, 116 Standard. Well, my first item tonight was going to be my disappointment with Councilor Cuddy's outburst last week, interacting with an individual speaking during the public be heard, since you have indicated many times that that is not to happen, but yet tonight you just blew me out of the water by allowing Councilor Diego to interact. So you either need to enforce it or do away with it and have interaction.
Can I pause your time for a second, Mr. Bush?
Yeah.
So our rules do allow a counselor to ask a point of clarification, and last week, that's what Counselor Cuddy asked for, and that's what he just asked for. So our rules do allow for that.
Okay.
But it doesn't allow for a back and forth. That's why tonight, after,
You just had it back.
well, he did, I think he was trying to clarify what the question was that Counselor Diego had. I was not going to allow a further back and forth, and that's why I cut off last week when it started getting out of control. But our rules do allow for a point of
Okay,
clarification.
at least this was civil. Councilor Cuddy's was not. So my second thing is, now I'm not on social media, but this was brought to me by someone I trust very well, that knows I attend here almost weekly, actually since 2005, that there were individuals and actually one of our county political committees who tried to denigrate the mayor for not attending a meeting 2 weeks ago, even though it was told right at the beginning of the meeting by the city clerk is the reason he was not going to be here. Well, the reason is that he was in California attending the commission of his brother to lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps. Now, in my opinion, that's a very reasonable excuse. And as a former Marine myself, all I can say to it is, hoorah! Now, many of you won't know what that was, but I guarantee you that Lieutenant Colonel Giannatino will know exactly what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard this evening?
Good evening. I'm Lon Fricano, 321 Bacchus Road, Cayuga, and an Auburn taxpayer. I have to leave this meeting before it ends, so I apologize for that. From my viewpoint, this is going to sound a little crazy, but the financial crisis facing the city is essentially 90% fictional. I could easily save this city $10 million. I can do it without losing services, and I don't even need a calculator to do it. What we have been witnessing is the quintessential political machinations of stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Casey Park Pool being a glaring example of this. I don't mean to be rude, but you only have one job, and that is to do the right thing for the taxpayers who fund this city. Mic drop, full stop. As long as you allow special interests to hold the keys to the city, you will have failed in your mission, your promises, and your oaths of office. This is the place. Now is the time. You know what you have to do.
Is there anyone else wishing to be heard? Mr. Price?
Thank you, Mayor. City Council members, my name is Taylor Price. I live at 74 Mary Street. I just wanted to come tonight and just express my, concern about the flock cameras, and particularly the manner in which we entered into this contract with this company. I appreciate that you are looking into it, that you're open to you know, asking questions, and like in a spirit of openness. I think that's important, especially when you're dealing with this kind of technology, which is, while it might have pros in terms of you know, law enforcement, and that could be questionable, but also the cons of basically loss of liberty or loss of privacy. And so, you know, while specifically I am here to thank you guys for looking at and honestly going back and looking at the manner in which the city entered this contract, but it also is a bigger, you know, question about the, like you referred to earlier, the cameras themselves, the technology itself, and that's obviously a bigger discussion. But for right now, I just want to thank you guys for at least, you know, looking at this and understanding that there are problems with how we entered into this contract, and the secrecy, which I'm not saying is intentional, but when you're dealing with things of this matter, when there's secrecy or there's information is not being shared with the public, and then, you know, we are entered into contracts that are, I would say, pretty sketchy, and a company that is sketchy, then that's not good, and then that really breeds, you know, a lot of, it has a lot of, you know, negative effects, obviously. And so, you know, basically, thank you for what you're doing. Please continue to do so. We will keep coming back. We will let you know, you know, every step of the way. If we have to get out of this contract with Flock, and then, like, do we really need to enter it? I mean, are there other ways? Are there other options that we can look into where we don't have to give away our data, our privacy, to a private company that is in no way beholden to anyone except for its shareholders?
30 seconds.
So, I don't know. You know, Benjamin Franklin had a great quote about people, you know, giving up their essential liberty for a little bit of safety, and, you know, as a result, you know, you don't deserve either. You know, so I'll close with that, and I'd just like to say thank you, and you know, that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Chris Maitland, Franklin Street Road, tall people. I too I'm fairly new at coming to these meetings, but I've been showing up weekly for about a month or so now. And I understand that there's a lot of animosity. There's a lot up in the air right now. But Councilor Cuddy, the way you reacted last week was appalling to me. I'm sorry, but it was absolutely appalling. To stand there and go back and forth with someone who's concerned about losing coworkers and all the things that they're worried about, you gotta do better. You just have to do better. Mr. Mayor, congratulations to your brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Ms. Okozik.
My name is Pam Okosik. I live on Chapman Avenue. So I've been coming here for about 6 years. And I have to say that people have stood here and said to Mr. Cuddy that they didn't appreciate the way he acted last week. But you have to understand, these people have been going over this budget for months, lost sleep over it. Yet, Mr. Bonifano, the president of the Auburn Police Department, has stood here and said what the police department's going to do and not do for weeks. He's insulted these people time and time again, thrown his little fits, hasn't stood behind anybody in the city. Other people are going to lose their jobs. When I walked in one night, officers stood out there and told me, Nobody else's jobs matter except for theirs. And they know whose jobs matter and whose jobs don't matter. I spoke to the police chief, and he said he could do it, and he could get away with it because he's the president of the union. If he's the president of the union, I hold him to a higher standard than the officers themselves. And guess what? These people and us sign his paycheck. I'm here every week and I fight for everybody. I fight for the police department, I fight for the fire department, I fight for the garbage workers, I fight for the city workers, I fight for everybody. I fight for these people because guess what? Everybody matters, not just the police department. And when they have questions for everybody, they're their bosses too. So you know what? If Mr. Bonifano is the president of the union and they have questions for him, they deserve answers from him. So you know what? If we need to fight for everybody. We don't need to single out
30
certain
seconds.
people. So you know what? We need to start fighting for everybody because I wouldn't want to step in these people's shoes and try to figure out this budget. But you know what? They do it. And they do, I think they're doing a fairly good job. And they lose sleep over it every night. But everybody sits here and says, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault.
Your time's up, Mrs. Okazik.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
ma'am.
thank you for the jobs, wonderful jobs you guys are doing because I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
Is there anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? We'll close the public to be heard. The meeting minutes from last week will be forthcoming. City manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to draw everybody's attention to bid opportunities on the city's website. The building contractors for vacant rental program, those bids are due on June 16th. And just wanted to recognize city employees who are retiring in this upcoming week. Detective Chuck Augello from the Auburn Police Department with 20 years of service, firefighter Bernard Collier, Auburn Fire Department with 30 years of service, and Assistant Chief Ed Sherman with the Auburn Fire Department, 31 years of service. Thank you to these dedicated city employees who have served our organization with excellence, and we wish them all the best.
Any questions for Ms. Haynes? Reports from members of council? Anything? I have a few things. Tuesday morning, we welcomed the Genesee Street School fourth graders here to City Hall for Passport to History. Tuesday evening, we had the annual Tim Durant Recovery Walk. I just want to acknowledge the Auburn City Court System and the District Attorney's Office and the Police Department and Sheriff's Office for continuing to embrace treatment courts in this community. They're a vital tool. Wednesday evening, Councilor Cuddy and I had our monthly ADA meeting. We had a presentation from Bob Griffin from the SBDC, Small Business Development Council, and a new program that they're working on, strategic growth services that will be available free of charge to businesses in our community to help them plan for growth. And then last evening, Councilor Diego and I attended the 150th anniversary celebration of Seymour Library. I want to congratulate that institution and thank them for the good work that they continue to do in our community. Award resolution number 42 of 2026, awarding a bid for the 2026 CDBG curbing installation. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Cuddy, second by Councilor Clarko.
Award Resolution 42 of 2026, whereas on February 12th, 2026, the Auburn City Council authorized the program year 2026 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, including the CDBG curb program. And whereas the program provides for new curbing installation in targeted areas of the city, which are so designated, and whereas the areas for this year's construction is Curtis Place. And whereas on May 5th, 2026, bids for the 2026 CDBG curb program were open, and the following two bids were received. One, Diamond Excavation and Masonry for $157,095, and two, DeGeorge Construction Services, $172,830. Whereas it is necessary the Auburn City Council award the 2026 CDBG sidewalk program contract to the lowest qualified bidder, which is Diamond Excavation and Masonry Incorporated, contingent upon a completed environmental review. And now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby award the 2026 CDBG curb program contract to Diamond Excavation. Be it further resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby authorize a contract of up to $178,000 using the unit pricing provided in the low bid. Be it further resolved, the Comptroller's Office is authorized to establish a community development account for the project, and the cost of the project is to be charged to the CD 8672.2210 2026 account. Be it further resolved, the mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents in reference to the award of these construction bids.
Any questions or discussion from the council? Councilor Diego.
Question. For Tiffany, if she wants, or anybody that wants to answer it. I know I ask this every time one of these contracts come up, this obviously being the grant. If the high bid was $157,095, how are we authorizing $178,000? I see on the sidewalk one coming up, I just want to combine them all in one.
Yep.
The only reason I'm asking is, and obviously it just came up here a few minutes ago when the mayor asked last week about using that extra money, if there was any, maybe to make the repairs at Casey Park Pool. I'm just trying to figure out why the overage is, because being it's a document anybody can see, it's a public document. The thing that scares me about it is if I'm Diamond Excavation, I'm going to say there's an extra $20,000 sitting there that they've already authorized when our bid was $157,000. I'm just trying to understand the overage charge.
Sure. So when we do the annual CDBG budget, we allocate a certain amount of funding to each project. So we need to try to stay within that budget. So this represents this total along with the sidewalk, a certain budget within the annual action plan. That budget also included a little bit higher amount, so if you added those together, there's still a higher amount in our action plan because we also allocated engineering staff time to oversee this project and do construction administration. The bid is put out, it's not a lump sum bid, so we're not saying for Curtis Place it's going to cost $158,000 to do all of the sidewalks. Our engineering department, and Scott, if I misspeak at all, please let me know. Our engineering department uses their best estimate at what pricing is going to be for the upcoming construction season. They then do an estimate of the street and see how much work can get done. This estimate, both the estimates for sidewalk and curbing, our estimates were a little bit on the higher end. So this just means that we are going to be able to complete, they had actually left out a piece of the curbing on Curtis Place, thinking we weren't going to get that far. This will just allow us. So it says up to, we're only going to be doing sidewalks on Curtis Place, or I mean curbing on Curtis Place. Payments are all based on measurements completed by our engineering department.
So then if there's, like you said, there's authorized 178, so they might be able to get some more curbs done there and use the money.
In our action plan, we did not write a description for curbing on any other street, so we would not be able to go to an additional street.
Appreciate it.
And does the remaining money just get put back into CDBG?
It stays within CDBG. We would look at trying to reprogram that in the following year.
All right, very good. Are you all set? Any other questions?
So if I can just, while Tiffany's here, address the question on Casey Park Pool. CDBG funding has been used extensively at Casey Park for capital projects. CDBG regulations do not allow for us to utilize them for maintenance that the city is required to do. Am I correct in that, Tiffany?
That is correct.
So if we were doing a capital project at Casey Park, like the skate park, like the tennis courts, the things that we have done with CDBG there, we could use it for that. We would need to go through the public input process and all of those things in order to adjust the budget for that.
And for the public's knowledge, CDBG funding is regulated by the federal government.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilor Diego?
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy.
Yes.
Counselor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Award Resolution Number 43 of 2026, awarding a bid for the 2026 CDBG Sidewalk Program. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Clarko, seconded by Counselor Diego.
Council Resolution 43 of 2026, whereas on February 12th, the Auburn City Council authorized the program year 2026 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan, including the CDBG Sidewalk Program, whereas the program provides for new sidewalks and curb installation in targeted areas of the city, and whereas the area for this year's construction is Augustus Street, and whereas on April 28, 2026, bids for the 2026 CDBG Sidewalk Program were open, and the following bid was received. DeGeorge Construction Services LLC for $148,135. And whereas it is necessary the Auburn City Council award the 2026 CDBG Sidewalk Program contract to the lowest qualified bidder, which is DeGeorge Construction Services LLC, contingent upon a completed environmental review and the city receiving an executed fiscal year 2026 contract from the United States Department of HUD. Now therefore be it resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby award the 2026 CDBG Sidewalk Program to DeGeorge Construction, and be it further resolved, the Auburn City Council does hereby authorize a contract in the amount of up to $165,000 using the unit pricing provided in the low bid. Be it further resolved, the Comptroller's Office is authorized to establish a community development account for the project, and the cost of the project is to be charged to the account CD 8672.2210.2026. Be it further resolved, the mayor is authorized to execute any and all documents in reference to the award of the construction bids.
Question or discussion from the council? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Counselor Diego.
Yes.
Counselor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Counselor Cuddy.
Yes.
Counselor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Agreement Resolution Number 44 of 2026, authorizing a master agreement, Brookside Drive Culvert Replacement. Do we have a sponsor? Counselor Clarko, second by Counselor Overstreet Wilson.
Agreement Resolution 44, whereas a project for the Brookside Drive over tributary number 1 to North Hunter Brook Culvert Replacement, Bridge, New York, PIN 3757.60, is eligible for reimbursement under the Bridge, New York funding that calls for the post-reimbursement apportionment of the qualified cost to be borne at the ratio of 100% Bridge, New York funds and 0% non-Bridge, New York funds. And whereas the City of Auburn will design, bid, and administer all phases of the project, and whereas the City of Auburn desires to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the engineering, right-of-way incidentals, right-of-way acquisition, and construction inspection, with the understanding that qualified costs will be reimbursed from Bridge New York funding. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the city that the City of Auburn does hereby approve the project, and be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Auburn hereby authorizes the city to pay 100% of the cost of engineering, right-of-way incidental, right-of-way acquisition, and construction inspection for the project or portions thereof, with the understanding that qualified costs be reimbursed from Bridge New York funding. Be it further resolved, the City Council hereby agrees that the city shall be responsible for all costs of the project, including costs which exceed the amount of reimbursement available from the New York Bridge funding. Be it further resolved that in the event the costs of the project exceed the amount appropriated above, the City Council of the City of Auburn shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon the notification by the engineer in charge. Be it further resolved, the City Council is hereby agrees that the City of Auburn hereby commits that construction of the project shall begin no later than 24 months after award of the construction phase of the project shall be completed within 30 months. Be it further resolved, the City Comptroller is authorized to establish revenue account number HA99359MF, and expenditure account HA5111.5442 MF with a budget of $1,485,430 made available to cover the cost of participation in the above phases of the project. Be it further resolved, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute any and all necessary agreements, certifications, or reimbursement requests with the New York State DOT for state aid and or Bridge New York funding on behalf of the city in connection with the advancement or approval of the project, and providing for the administration of the project and the municipality's funding of the project costs. Be it further resolved, the city will be responsible for all maintenance of the project, and be it further resolved, that a certified copy of the resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project. All set, Mayor.
Any questions, discussion from the council? Councilor Diego?
Yeah, just, I'm assuming I'm reading it correctly. So this is 100% reimbursable from the state after it's done. We just have to pay for it up front.
Scott, can you help me with that one?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, the one part there, Scott, I see it listed a couple times. It says things that were qualified costs. Are we venturing outside of those costs by any means, or do we know exactly what we can and can't be reimbursed for?
Yes, the whole project can be reimbursed.
Oh, perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. McIntyre, when do you expect this work to start?
We're just getting in. We started this process last year when we got the award from Bridge New York. We actually passed a resolution enabling the signature for this master agreement, but the DOT wanted specific language in the resolution. So we are now signing a new master agreement with the new resolution. It's really hard to tell exactly. They're giving us authorization to go out to for design right now with this master agreement, and then there'll be supplemental agreements for construction. It could be in another year and a half, 2 years probably.
Oh, okay, all right. And do you expect road closure for this?
Yeah, at some point there will be a road closure, yes.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. McIntyre? Thank you, sir. Please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes.
Councilor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Council, the next resolution number 45 of 2026, authorizing the designation of the City of Auburn responsible local official and New York State Department of Transportation Equitable Business Opportunities Systems Administrator. There's been a request that we table this evening. Ms. Selvik had a meeting with State DOT this afternoon, and they want some of the language in the resolution changed. Rather than pull it, it would be easier if we table it so that staff can modify it, and then we'll bring it back. So could I have a motion to table? Councilor Clarko, second by Councilor Diego. Please call the roll.
Motion to table Resolution 45 of 2026. Councilor Diego.
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes.
Councilor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Agreement resolution number 46 of 2026, settling certain pending opioid claims. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Diego, seconded by Councilor Clarko.
Council Resolution 46 of 2026, whereas a national opioid settlement has been reached with 6 regional distributors, dispenser defendants, Associated Pharmacies Incorporated, J.M. Smith Corporation, Louisiana Wholesale Drug Company, Morris and Dixon Company, North Carolina Mutual Wholesale Drug Company, and United Natural Foods, including its subsidiaries Super Value and Advantage Logistics. And there is one settlement agreement covering the combined settlement with the 6 remnant defendants. And whereas if effectuated, the proposed remnant defendant settlement will result in 6 remnant defendants paying a combined $97,625,000 in cash for purposes of abating the opioid epidemic.
Any questions or discussion from the council?
I still got the other half to read.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to read as fast as I can. Whereas the remnant defendant's settlement does not include state attorneys general or any amount allocated to a state, rather, settlement funds will be distributed only and directly to participating eligible entities that timely opt in. And whereas the city of Auburn has been harmed by conduct that contributed to the opioid epidemic, and it is in the city's interest to consider participating in the remnant defendant settlement in order to obtain available abatement funds and releases described in the settlement agreement. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council hereby authorizes the city to participate in the 6 remnant defendants national opioid settlement on the terms described in the settlement overview. And now therefore be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute the required legal documents attached hereto and incorporated herein to achieve such an outcome.
Questions or discussion from the council? This is, I believe, the 3rd lawsuit we've joined. I did check in with Mr. Garland this afternoon because he had a last-minute reason that he couldn't be here this evening. This will be a little different than previous lawsuits, whereas the current lawsuits, the funding goes through the state, then it comes to the municipalities. This will come directly to us. It will have the same limitations. There are only certain things that we can spend it on. In the past, we've used it to help fund institutions such as Nick's Ride and Chad. This year, we sent some funding to APD and Auburn City Ambulance to help with their operations. So, I just want to thank Corporation Council for doing the work for this. I think it's important that these manufacturers be held responsible and that we can bring some relief back to our community. Please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes.
Councilor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Financial Resolution Number 47 of 2026, closing of a capital project. Do we have a sponsor? Councilor Overstreet Wilson, second by Councilor Clarko.
Financial Resolution 47 of 2026, whereas the city of Auburn authorized various capital project funds to make improvements to equipment and facilities. And whereas the GASB and GAP best practices recommends the official closing of capital projects by the governing body. And whereas the following capital projects are determined to be complete, it now should be officially closed, excuse me, with the disposition of unexpended balances approved. Now therefore be it resolved that the Auburn City Council recommends closure of the following capital projects: the 2020-21 road program, 2021-22 road program, 2022-23 road program, 2023-24 road program, 2024-25 road program, and Auburn Police Department KT. And be it further resolved, the Auburn City Controller is authorized to transfer funds as per the schedule attached.
Any questions or discussion from the council? Councilor Diego.
Yeah, just to make sure I'm understanding this, I spoke to Mary Beth earlier about it. So this is just leftover money when you close these projects out, and we'll use that money to pay down debt with the money
Correct.
that's left over.
So the first 3 road program projects were actually partially bond funded. We'll take that money back and put it into the reserve for debt to pay down future debt, so that we don't pay down that debt, so that we don't pay interest.
Very good. All set. Any other questions from the council? Please call the roll.
Councilor Diego.
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson.
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy.
Yes.
Councilor Calarco.
Aye.
Mayor Genatino.
Aye.
Carried.
Other business from the council? Councilor Cuddy.
Yes, Mayor. I have 2 items. One is I do want to address the YMCA Casey Park pool situation. I've met with Mr. Sensabaugh and well aware of what we've been trying to do to keep Casey Park open, and I just want to stress that I believe we are committed to continuing swimming in Auburn. This year poses especially difficult situation.
Having that been said, one of the constituents who was here earlier, did mention 9 weeks before swimming happens. A lot can happen in 9 weeks. Maybe there's a windfall from the state that can possibly help with this situation. If that becomes a possibility, I would like to see, see what we could do in that time frame. That's one thing I would like to put out there as a possibility. But again, if the budget is what it is expected to be, I understand where we are with that. I get that. Secondly, another week where constituents have posed their concern about flock safety. I do appreciate the APD's presentation last week. I also feel that despite our best efforts to try to keep the data that we may be collecting with these cameras local, I am not sure that we can control the information beyond the boundaries of the city. I think with how the technology has become integrated across platforms and across this whole country, I do believe that these private companies are not beholden to the people of Auburn. I would like the Corporation Council to continue to look for ways in which we could look at how this process came about, and the fact that the council indeed did not accept the grant for this. I'm interested in seeing what the appetite is at some point to find alternatives. Those are the two things I wanted to mention this evening.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
I just gonna piggyback what Councilor Cuddy said about the flock cameras that are still mounted and still collecting our data. This was not brought before council, just in terms of being explained what these flock cameras would do. And I do believe that it's still being downplayed. And what the cameras are gonna collect, what it's not going to collect. I also don't trust that we can control the data once it leaves Auburn. Once it passes the city limits of Auburn and goes into Cube County. I also don't trust that what could possibly be told to us would be followed because they're not beholden to us. And every grant that looks good or is told to us that it's going to pose a safety net doesn't always mean that that is a good thing for us. I had a few people call me this week and express their concerns that I did not support the collecting of data. And my point back to them was, AI is going to be, or is a wonderful thing considered by some folks. I just personally don't believe we know enough of what AI will be and all that in the reaches that it may have, and what is the purpose of AI policing. The pushback that I also received from that was, well, we have phones, we're already being recorded and surveilled. And I said, you're correct, but I chose this. I chose this knowing full well what this was gonna collect. I can tell by the algorithms. I tend to like cooking videos, so they always come up. So I know what this is collecting. I know in terms of what I think I know what it's collecting. I don't know what Flock is collecting. I know that I know what I'm being told, what it's collecting. I don't trust that even the people that are told probably fully know, because it's a private company. And had it come before this council, because I do want to be clear, I wouldn't have supported it from the beginning. Had it been told to us in the nature in which it has been, in the nature in which it is now set up, the nature in which the data that is collected, I wouldn't have supported that from the beginning. So I do appreciate this council and the mayor and the city manager allowing me to say that. I will still be in support of other alternatives coming forward, but a full description of what those companies will do or not do is what I will be looking for. Thank you.
All set, Counselor? Counselor Diego?
Yeah, just wanted to touch on what Councilor Cuddy and Overstreet said also. I'm just checking, feeling the temperature. Is there anybody that even remotely thinks that maybe the YMCA is going to be an option for a quarter of the price? If the money comes through for Casey Park or through the budget, I mean, you're looking at $80,000 for 4 weeks or $181,000 for 6 weeks, when we could, go and I believe, I'm trying to think the top of my head off the estimates, they were anywhere from $16,000 to $25,000 for the YMCA. He wants to trade parking spots for the swimming pool. It's not ideal for the families or kids by any means, being inside, but it's also, I think it's a viable option if we can't get Casey Park open. So that was something I think that if we're going to continue to work, this budget's not due until, obviously I know Mary Beth has got to get the bills out and stuff along those lines. You'd like it done by the middle of June, but hypothetically it's not due till June 30th because it's, has to renew on the 1st, so, or correction, June 30th, because July 1st it would start. That's something that I would like to keep an eye on, or maybe there's a further discussion on that. Going back to the flock, we've gone about that for weeks and weeks and weeks about this. Like I said it once, I'll say it again. I appreciate the people that come in and speak on their thoughts on it. Probably one of the things I would have liked to seen done would have been actually having a representative from Flock come and speak, a professional representative. Nothing personal against the chief. He gave the presentation, but, I thought that probably would have been a good idea. On the same token, I don't think we're going to know anything about all these cameras and who's running them and all that because, everybody that comes up here has got a different take on it. It's hard to decipher what's accurate and what's not. It's tough taking away, a tool for the law enforcement, but if it's collecting data and stuff, that's, I think that we have to find an alternative regardless. I think the bigger problem we're going to run into is you're talking about, according to the budget today, eliminating 58 positions, but we're going to turn around and lose anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000 if we shut this thing off tomorrow. That's a concern for me. I got zero issue at all if this contract runs itself out and you say we're not renewing anything with them. No issue with that at all. It gives them time to, find something else and let the public speak on it also, because I know they've had a lot of different alternatives on what they'd like to do. I know the two that I've put out there, they've shot both of them down already, unfortunately. I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to speak and say they're right or wrong, but it's hard to tell people they don't have a job anymore and then just toss $80,000, $90,000. I mean, you got 2.5 years left on the contract. It's about $650 per camera to remove them, so you got another, almost $7,000 that we're going to have to pay. It's just another option. I don't want them collecting data by any means, like you said, but I definitely would like to find an alternative that's going to work for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Clark.
I would just like to add, I agree we need to keep having conversations about Casey Park Pool. I continue to be hopeful that maybe there is something in the state budget when it finally comes through that will allow for us to make sure this happens. But until then, we won't know much. But I do appreciate the YMCA and all they're trying to do to try to work with us and try to provide something for the kids. As far as the flock cameras, I think we still just have so much to learn, and we can't do things in a knee-jerk reaction because none of us really knew flock until the Super Bowl, and if we're being honest with ourselves, that's when we all kind of figured out what was going on. So I think we need to learn more, and perhaps it needs to be a bigger conversation, not just about flock, but what are we going to do in terms of biometrics, data collection at large, and not just by APB, but by businesses. We're seeing other municipalities think about these kinds of laws and what they're going to put in, and I think maybe that's the conversation we need to start having.
All set. Did you have something else, Councilor?
Yes, I just wanted to, I respond to Councilor Diego. My concern with having the company come in here, obviously, it's like they're going to sell it. They're going to and I think that I found more value, hearing from the police department because they're, that's their experience with it. And if we invited Flock, then we would have to get another professional from the other side, and I feel that we could solve this based on our own research. Like the five of us here can really, determine, I think Councilor Calarco's statement is like, is this a bigger issue? So, I'm willing to engage with that discussion. So, but I just don't want it to lose sight, because I think it's going to be something that's going to continue after this budget cycle.
Absolutely.
Councilor Overstreet
Yep.
Wilson.
Just on one last thing, I also want to thank the president and CEO, Mr. Sensible, from the YMCA coming in and putting into actual numbers what the increased parking would look like. So I was one of those young folk from Auburn that received numerous scholarships to go to programming at the YMCA. And when you put that number into, when you attach the number of what the increase in cost, how that would impact the young folks that need it, probably more so now than they needed it 40 years ago, it really has a story behind it. So I really appreciate all the work that this entire city council is doing, and the mayor and corporation council, along with the city mayors, our mayor and all of the heads of the department, to try to think about how we can work together collectively to pitch from here and to pull from here. The last thing I would want to see is scholarships not happening for the babies in this community. Idle minds, they'll start to think of other things to do to fill that space up. In addition to that, if we don't allow them the opportunity to have recreational outlets, will come up with their own ideas on what that will look like. I know as well that the YMCA also does an annual, they look for ways annually for the money to be given to them. But I was wondering if there is even an opportunity, if we can't come to the end of this budget cycle and we don't have a way to decrease the funding, is there a way to have, and this is me just being a community member as well, is there a way to adopt a scholarship program where all of the folks that are on Facebook and all of the folks that are on different social media platforms that are talking about this being something that would have a negative impact if our children couldn't go to different programming within the city, and adopt the scholarship program might be something that 100 people that are having these opinions might be able to get together and adopt a scholarship for one of these kids to participate in the summer program.
Yeah, no, we can't. Yeah, I appreciate that, but maybe you guys can get together afterwards. Yeah. Is council all set on those topics? All right, I want to touch on a couple of things. I'll start with the pool. Obviously, there's a lot of disappointment and emotion around the pool. We understand that. We appreciate that. I, for one, as a kid, went to Casey Park Pool. My uncles were lifeguards there. I spent my summers there, as many people have. And while we're talking about the pool in the context of the summer of 2026, I think that it's important to also talk about the pool in the context of the last 10 years. We have been committed to that pool and keeping that pool open and a resource for this community, to the point that when it was brought to our attention by staff several years ago that, hey, we're paying tens of thousands of dollars a year to run this pool and nobody's coming. And we think it's because we're charging for it. And the minute we stopped charging for it, the pool was full. Probably not the best financial decision, right? But it was the best community decision, the best quality of life decision that we could have made. And that's our commitment to the pool. we find ourselves like other municipalities in very dire consequences right now. One of the driving costs of the pool is electricity. There's a person sitting out there that it doesn't complain about their NYSEG bill. In some cases, they've doubled. It's the same thing with the pool. I agree that if by some chance there's some funding that's available, we should consider it, but I think we should also talk to our staff that's responsible for that, our department heads, and make sure that it fits into the framework of their budgets, and then it's not going to overtax them, because at the same time, we are seeing some elimination of positions. But I think I do agree the conversation needs to continue. In regards to parking, there were a few things said tonight. The cost of parking. You know, our job, what I view my job as an elected official, I have from day one and I will till day zero. We're the great compromisers. We listen to what staff has to say, we listen to what the community has to say, we look at the facts, and we try to come up with the best solution. There was a gentleman on city council at one point in time who said to me one day, I can't make anybody happy. And I said, it's not about making people happy, it's about making the best decision available to you. And most of the time, there's bad decisions and worse decisions, but you just have to make the best one available to you. And that's where we find ourselves. In terms of parking, you know, I understand people don't want to pay more for parking, whether you're a lawyer in downtown Auburn or a not-for-profit or John Doe, Jane Doe. In 2021, our electricity costs in the parking garage were $10,791 on an annual basis. In 2026, they are on track to be $36,000. We're financing that on the back of taxpayers and now the workforce. Nobody wants the cost of anything to go up. I don't want the cost of anything to go up. And that's the thing. When I go downtown to get my bagel, I'm going to put 50 cents in the meter instead of a quarter now. When I go to the garage, I'm going to pay more now because I'm also a citizen of the city. I don't get things for free, so I understand that. But again, it's about finding that compromise. And the reality of the economy and the world that we are living in, the cost of everything is increasing. So we have to make those hard choices. And those choices are being driven by this data. We're looking at this data, and that's how we're making these choices. So I just wanted to say that, you know, I always try to find somewhere in the middle, right? Like there's people downtown that want free parking, there's people downtown that want paid parking, and they want it limited, and we try to find that compromise. With that, I do want to ask council if there's any additional final input on the budget other than what we've already provided to staff.
If possible, can I get another week on that? I just got some more documentation today, and I can reach out directly to Jenny or Mary Beth. I just want to review a few more documents beforehand.
That's fine, for sure.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? All right. I understand there's a request for executive session.
Yes, Mayor. One matter related to the financial history of a particular corporation, one matter leading to the employment of a particular corporation, one matter for potential litigation, and one related to collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law.
All right, very good. Do we have a request for executive session, or a sponsor for executive session? Councilor Diego, second by Councilor Overstreet Wilson. Please call the roll.
Executive session for 6:20 p.m. Councilor Diego?
Yes.
Councilor Overstreet Wilson?
Yes.
Councilor Cuddy?
Yes.
Councilor Calarco?
Aye.
Mayor Gilbertine?
Aye, we'll be in recess for executive session.
Yes.
See you, Joe.